Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. It's Florida Derby Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Plenty of graded stakes races to discuss, including race number 13, the Grade 2 Pan American at 1.5 miles on the turf. You're also going to want to bet race number 1 at Gulfstream on Saturday and take advantage of the DRF Bets First Post bonus. Bet $25 to win on any one horse in race number 1. Get a $10 bonus, win or lose. Find out more at drf.com/preps. Let's meet the field for the Grade 2 Pan American for these turf marathoners. Morning line favorite for Michael Maker. It's the number 8 Solio. This is the Keeneland graduate that's finished second in his last 3 races. And while he finished ahead of 3 of these horses in his most recent start, the Grade 3 W.L. McKnight. He has a lot of seconds and thirds on his resume. That's kind of been his story.
Yeah, he really does, especially when you look at his last 3 races where he just was right there at the end and just couldn't quite seal the deal. I will say this about his McKnight, though. He got a really good trip in that race. I loved the ride that Jose Ortiz gave him. He also ran really well in that race. I mean, once he got clear in the stretch, he took a big shot at Zulu Alpha in there, and he just got turned away, probably by a horse who's a little better than him. But he ran really well last time. If he runs that race again, I gotta believe he's going to be tough to beat in here, Dan. He's very tactical, can get any kind of a trip in the race. So even though he's drawn outside, it shouldn't really affect him. I think he's the horse to beat in here.
And it's just another example of the genius of Maker, taking this horse for a mere $50,000 in 2017. He's banked almost $300,000 since turning over into the Maker barn. And Timeform US believes he might sit a candy trip just off the early leader, that being Todd Pletcher's number 3, Village King. Now, I thought if Village King was going to do it, it was going to be last time out in the McDermott, because he set a rather easy pace, I thought, that day, and he just couldn't get it done. I think he is a useful horse, and I think if they leave him alone and they go really, really slow, he can wire this field. I'm just not sure how good he is right now.
Yeah, and right. It feels like even if he runs his very best race, it might not be good enough in this field. And listen, he ran fine last time, but as you say, he had control of that pace, and the horses that outfinished him were sitting first, second, and fourth. They were right there with him the entire way, and he just couldn't hold those horses off.
Sitting third in the pace projector, I believe, was the 7 Salute the Colonel, which kind of shows you that there's not a lot of speed in this race, and that might actually help Village King. Salute the Colonel, when you look over his past performances, he is mostly a horse that likes to come from well off of the pace. He's making his 3rd start of the form cycle, stepping up out of several restricted and state-bred stakes races. He just looks a bit overmatched. There certainly are better closers in the race, you would think.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the story is with this horse. I guess they just want to try him going longer distances, but I don't see how they can beat this field.
He's going to be stretching way out in a trip. Let's go down to the inside, because I think the key to the race is to whether Chad Brown has focus group ready to rumble off a little bit of a layoff. We were so impressed with the way he kicked down fields at Saratoga last year, albeit over good going, that I think we both liked him a little bit in the Canadian International, and he just fell so far back that day. He swung widest into the stretch. It looked like for a brief second he was going to kick, and it just wasn't there. It's nice to know that another one of the also-rans from that race, the 8th place finisher Bandua, came back to run well off the layoff, finishing second at a giant price with a 99 buyer speed figure. Now, Chad told our Dave Grenning that maybe focus group's going to have to need one off the layoff, but from a talent perspective, this horse has got it in spades. He's just going to have to overcome perhaps a slow pace.
Yeah, the pace may not be there for him, and you know that he'll be at the back of this pack early because that's his running style. He's really good, though, and he could actually have a good year in this division as time goes on. We'll see if he needs one off the layoff. You know, it's interesting because when he came off the layoff last year at Keeneland going 1.5 miles, he didn't need one that day. He ran really well in there, and he just kept getting better from race to race. He's very dangerous here. We'll see if he's ready to fire his best shot.
The number 2, Mel Mitch, is a horse that you can't help but root for. He's earned $1 million in his career. He's won 17 times, 32 of 44 in the exacta. He's 8 years old, and he's still kicking. It's kind of remarkable he's never won a race on the turf. He's mostly known as a synthetic specialist, but his 2 races on grass this year are perfectly fine, and you know the distance is okay. I think he has a little bit more tactical speed than what he's shown in his last 2 races, and it'll be interesting to see if Javier tries to get him into the race a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of trip he can get in here. I didn't think he got a poor one last time.
No.
Just maybe a little too much ground to make up. I still think he ran well in that race. I think he's run well in both of his turf races lately. So I think he's a contender in here. We'll see what kind of price he is.
I know you're a fan of the 6 Highland Sky, and I wonder if he's just a little bit dirtied up coming into this race, Mike. He ran a big fig at Belmont over the summer. They sent him to Saratoga in the Bowling Green. He caught softish ground, which I really think he abhors. Yeah. They ran him in the Sword Dance. It was a race where he really didn't break very well, ended up sort of back on towards the inside, and he kind of just didn't fire behind Glorious Empire, who wired that field. Then he caught the boggy turf in the Turf Classic, and in his seasonal debut, it was just a race with no pace whatsoever, and he was wide throughout.
Yeah, I agree with that. He didn't run as poorly as it looks off the layoff last time. I mean, was he going to win that race? Probably not, but nothing really went right for him in there. I mean, he just got caught on the outside right from the start, never had any cover at all in there. You could see him sort of get a little bit rank first time through the stretch in there. I just feel like that's a race you want to put a line through. Now, when you start going back through his races from last year, when he only went 1 for 7, I mean, do any of those make you really feel like he's a contender in here? I don't know. I could go either way on that question. If he's going to be a big price in this race, I want to use him somewhere.
I think from figs it does make him a contender,
he's got the
because I think his usual races, 97, 98, 103, from 3 to 5 races back, put him in the mix, and he does have, I think, the excuses: the ground, 2 starts back, and last time out, A, the layoff, B, the lack of pace. Let's talk a little bit about Nessie, the number 5, and this is another horse that just doesn't win very often. In the McKnight last time out, maybe he didn't like the yielding turf course. Maybe he moved too soon in that 2-mile race, 2 starts back in the Allen Jerkins. But his sort of signature win came in one of the weakest editions of the Grade 3 San Juan Capistrano. I mean, Nessie was odds-on in that race.
Yeah, when you see him going off at odds-on, you have to ask yourself, what did the rest of that field look like? Listen, I don't have any things. I don't really want to knock this horse. I gave up on him a long time ago. There's no way I'm betting him in this race, but he's a pretty nice horse.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Grade 2 Pan American Stakes, and I want to talk about your top pick, the number 4 Canassar, 7-2 on the morning line. This horse really loves the distance, and it looked like he was just getting into form over the summer, and he got really sick and had to miss the fall and the winter. And Arnaud Delacour brought him back in the McKnight, and he caught a really boggy turf course. He was dealing with a long layoff, and all things considering, just talk about that trip, because it did not work out.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, because you're right, his races when he first got over here, they were fine. I didn't think, you know, he sort of pointed himself out as any kind of star, but he ran well on some of those races. I don't really know, you know, what the plan was last time in that race. To be honest with you, Castellano was riding that day. He had him, you know, taken back, covered up early, and for some reason, it's almost like he just decided, headed into that second turn, I'm not going to sit behind horses anymore. He took him out 4 wide. This horse was 4 or 5 wide from there, all the way up the backstretch, all the way around the 3rd turn. He actually got a look at Zulu Alpha on the lead in the stretch of that race before he got tired, but I think he had a right to get tired considering the trip and the layoff, and now he's second time back. If he's any kind of square price in this race, I could easily take a shot with him.
And you could think that was just the perfect tightener.
Yeah,
it got him fit, because he had to run, as you mentioned, all the way through that 3rd turn and into the stretch. And I like that he's being reunited with Firagal Lynch, who has had a good amount of success with this horse and seems to fit well. We all know Bigger Picture's story. He's just another cool horse from the Maker barn. Maker took him for 32 back in 2015. He's earned $1.5 million just about. Yes, he loves Sam Houston, and the wins in the Connolly have come against subpar competition. I like the acceleration this horse showed on the backstretch and into the 3rd turn last time out at Houston, where it looked like Some In Time was going to try to get the jump on him, and this horse said no. He went right by him and then went by his business. And what I like best about Bigger Picture is this: he has more tactical speed than it looks on paper, and I think he's going to be the one sitting 2nd or 3rd in the early portion of this race, keeping an eyeball on Solio and going when that horse goes.
Yeah, I mean, if you could assure me that that was the trip he was going to get, then I would say...
Can't imagine him being taken back to last.
They just don't ride him like that anymore. I mean, you can go back through any of his races pretty much through the last year or so, and for some reason he's never that close to the pace anymore. Personally, look, it felt like he couldn't lose the Connolly last time. I was shocked when they took him back to last in there at 3 to 5. But as you say, he was actually pretty impressive. Do I think he's lost a step? I do think he's lost a step, but I still think he's pretty good.
He does fit in this field, and if the odds maker is right, 6-1 is certainly a fair price. Mike's going with Canassar, 2nd start of this year off of a tough trip. He should be ready to go for a good trainer in Arnaud Delacour. 4-1-8-2 for Mike. I want to give Bigger Picture one more chance. 9-8-1-4 for me in the Grade 2 Pan American Stakes Race 13 at Gulfstream. Make sure to get down on Race 1 at Gulfstream on Florida Derby Saturday. Take advantage of that first post bonus offered by DRF Bets. Bet $25 to win on one horse in race number 1. Get a $10 bonus, win or lose. Approximate post time for the Grade 2 Pan American, 6 o'clock Eastern. Good luck.